riser that was blended with the 3/16 black chrome.
So you could take the Omni-Light and bounce it into the umbrella.
I want to broadcast a video village. I can operate on the monitor, or I can operate off the screen.
So
it's very interchangeable.
The freedom to shoot 570 degrees around, not even moving your feet, and throughout this range.
To me, he's an artist, a man who captures visual images, presents them in such a way that are either dramatic, very profound. It's just something that he brings out and capturing whatever the stories may be, more or less giving the director and the audience every opportunity to see the work that he's actually done photographically. Whether it's a contemporary piece, a period piece, whatever it is. And I don't care whether, and if it's a documentary, it's another element in there. It's being able to express yourself visually all the way. By accident, if you want to call it that, I wanted to be a naval architect, literally. I enjoyed designing ships, boats. When I wanted to go to maybe the Naval Academy or Webb Institute, and it was my big interest at the time, but my math was pretty bad. And I had a good grade advisor who told me, you got an avocation? And I said, yeah, photography. He says, pursue it. And I did. I went to a wonderful school in New York. I had to take the exam to get in because it was a 5-borough school at the time. It was called the High School of Industrial Arts. I think it's now called the High School of Art and Design. And it was one of the few schools back in the early 40s, or during that period, that taught photography, photo science, and then motion pictures as they, progressed into it there. And I had a Bell & Howell 70 DA at the time, and that was my camera school. I got it, I think, my parents bought it for me for about $100, which was something at those days. But, made the films, and I got into filmmaking through that. And I was fortunate enough, while I was at the school, one thing about being in Manhattan is that you're in the midst of where the photography world was too. And yes, I worked in stills for a while, but I got with a small company called Hartley Productions at that time, and they did, during the war years, they did many of the training films for the government and so forth, and then later on, a lot of their industrial filming. And I stayed with them right after I graduated, and I stayed with them for about 2 years, and I became, from sweeping the floors to an assistant. Style is a funny thing. It means you to shoot the same way all the time. That's style. But you can't. You have to read the script and try to, if it's a small period piece. I mean, I've done period piece, and you have to act, shoot entirely different. I did a series for PBS, which were all period pieces and something all related to the 1800s and so forth. Candlelight and all of that. There was no electricity. You had to make it look like what it was supposed to be at that time. So that's another approach. So every film or every script denotes what it should look like, and you have to try to translate that. And that's where the visualization of the picture goes. And so you have to handle it accordingly. I know they say style. I mean, Gordy Willis with The Godfather, but that was Godfather. He didn't do it with every picture, you see. And it makes a big difference. But unfortunately, sometimes the layman pigeonholes a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? He does this kind of, I say layman, it could be even people in the business. But, pigeonholed, and you can't do that. People, good cameramen should be able to put variety in his look. I remember working, well, I was only the operator on it, but I was working on a picture called Parish, and I remember Harry Stradling trying to keep the level. You know, the sequence was supposed to be all within a certain period of time, and we went now later into the afternoon, and the sun was getting a little bit more orangey. And he said, Sal, stick in the 80, you know, have the assistant put the 81 EF in there. And that was a way of, at that time, to make sure that he was able to control that light situation instead of doing it in the printing. And not that they couldn't, but he wanted to master it at that point. So an 81 EF is one of my important filters too, just in case, especially when you're stretching the day.